So we were talking about the. We kind of finished up talking about the first responders. So now we're going to talk about the infrastructure for schools, roads, and parks. So let's just kind of talk about, in particular, South Knoxville on schools, roads, and parks. Kind of where are we as a county? I know that there's been a lot of attention in South Knoxville about roads. I know there's been a lot of discussion about Chapman Highway with TDOT. And I know there's been a big John Sevier corridor discussion about South Knox. And parks are pretty good in South Knox, but obviously we can do better, right? We can improve it. So kind of talk about that.
Yes, of course. I'd love to see some development in the area of road development, whatever we can do. Of course, there's a lot of demands across the county for that sort of thing, but for us to have steady growth and reasonable growth, we're going to need to also have the roads and infrastructure, the schools to support it. There's projects planned for the Tipton Station area right now that are, and Bonnie Kate School is already at capacity. So, there are more projects coming in and more planned that have already been approved. So,
man, you
there's stress there on the system.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Bonnie Kate, we need a new Hopewell School. Now, these things are in the 5-year capital plan of the mayor.
Right.
And we hope that stays that way. Of course, it's going to depend on funding.
Right.
And then, but yeah, we need some road improvements. I think we need also a little bit of stormwater improvements. There's some creeks and areas that always flood every time there are rains similar to what we had a few weeks back. So that type of thing. And parks, I would like to see in South Knoxville, of course, Carson has managed to secure us a splash pad for out there at the Howard Pinkston Library Park.
Oh, wow.
He's got that splash pad, and it's due to start work here in the spring, and we hope to be using it by middle summer. But then I'd like to see a sports complex of some kind out here. We don't have but Bauer Field, and we have some parks and some ball fields inside the city limits, but the county really doesn't have much but Bauer Field.
Well, I know there's been a lot of talk about Bauer Field. There's been a lot of talk about Dry Hollow and Thunder Mountain, and all of that is before your time, right? But
I understand. So
right.
Yes, I understand that I'm not going to have any involvement with that.
Right, and I understand. You're going to wind up talking to those people at Dry Hollow at some point in the future before March the 5th. Right, yes. February 16th. So, obviously personalities and whatnot. Ultimately, as the new commissioner, you've got to move forward, right? As I
understand, the growth plan is going to be passed and set
right.
By that time. And if it doesn't pass, then it may very well be in some kind of revision at that point. We'll see. But it's going to have to be passed by 3 different boards. With the commission, the city council, and the town of Farragut.
Right.
So good luck.
Well,
and then all those people agree.
And one of those entities stopped it in 2019 before COVID, right? So,
absolutely it was.
Right.
And so the zoning actually has already changed for that property
out
there in the Hollow.
Right.
And I know those folks don't necessarily like it. I wish there was something I could do about it, but there's nothing that I can do about it.
Right.
That was done. And I can tell you that I do not want to see hardly any more development south of the Hendricks Chapel, Kimberlin Heights area. I think those areas out towards the county line and out towards Johnson University, and of course, and then Seven Islands out there, the
Mm-hmm.
bird parks and all that. This needs to remain rural. The areas south of Tipton Station Road and Stock Creek, those areas need to stay rural. That's out towards the Sevier Blount County line. Those are important areas to retain our character of our county.
Absolutely. I mean, what you just talked about is the Stock Creek area, the Three Rivers area, the area going out to the Blount County, Sevier County line, whichever we hit first. I mean, those are as far out as you could come from Knoxville and Knox County, right?
Oh yeah.
So
go out to Tarkland Valley sometime.
Tarkland Valley, yeah.
Tarkland Valley, yeah. It's a road that runs from Pickens Gap, and it'll actually take you over into Blount County.
Right.
And it's a beautiful area out through there, and it's just as country as it can be.
So,
it's a character that we want to maintain.
Sure.
We want to keep this. There's going to be areas that are going to be for growth.
Right.
We want to maintain our areas of and I'm fully in support of the governor's new proposal on land conservancies and supporting those farmers and landowners that want to do that.
Well, and
I'm fully in support of that.
And you talk about that. It's interesting that I just interviewed Commission Chair Terry Hill, and we talked about what happened up in the Carter community where I grew up, up off Ruggles Ferry. I mean, you had property that was rezoned back in '89 that actually allowed 481 plus houses to be built on 100 plus acres. Was absolutely nothing that the county commission could approve on. It went before a Metropolitan Planning Commission. Actually, I call it Metropolitan Planning Commission. It's now called Knox Planning. When it went to Knox Planning, I mean, if I'm a planning commissioner, I'm going, okay, I have to approve this. Ultimately, they went to court. They beat it back. And now the second person that's bought that property is now saying, I'm going to put it in a land conservancy. That's great. That's what the community wanted.
Really? Okay.
And so
where is this again? I'm sorry.
This is the property up on Ruggles Ferry Pike.
Ruggles Ferry.
Right.
Great.
So I mean, it's outside your district, but I mean, ultimately, it all worked out for the good.
Right.
But
exactly.
at the end of the day, I mean, as one commissioner of 11, you've got to make the best decision for your constituents.
That's correct.
And so, I mean, yes, people are going to be upset. As a former elected official myself on the school board, not on a county commission, you hope that you make less than 50% of the people mad, but at the end of the day, you may make more than 50% of the people mad. But at the end of the day, you have to make the best decision for your constituents. So I hope to be there on February 16th when you meet with the Dry Hollow folks, because I was there when your Republican and your Democrat opponent met with them. And I'm sure the host of that meeting will allow me in. But before we go much further, let me get you to the last of one of the four things you stand for, which is guardian of the public hard-earned tax dollars. And I'll just be real before I let you talk. Look, you're following the steps of Howard Pinkston, Paul Pinkston, Victoria DeFreeze, Carson Daly, and Tim Green. So, those four people have fought pretty hard for the taxpayer dollars, and I don't think the folks in South Knoxville are going to be very upset with Barry Neal as their representative, because they've elected four predecessors before you. But I'm going to go ahead and let you have a talk about guardian of the public, the public's hard-earned tax dollars.
Well, it's important that we stretch every tax dollar as far as we can.
Oh, and before I let you continue, Fred Flanagan. I want to include Fred Flanagan in that group.
Freddie, I've talked to Fred day. Yes, it's important that we stretch every tax dollar as far as we can. But we've been fortunate that there's been a good amount of growth in the county's budget over the last 3 years or so, because there's been a lot of sales tax growth in pre-pandemic numbers. Before that, back 2019 to now, we've had some good growth, and the budget has grown with it. We've been able to give some raises, and we hope to be able to give some more. We're up over $1 billion now.
As an employee of the trustee's office, I'm well aware of the $1 billion. Yep, absolutely.
And the tax rate is as low as I can ever imagine at $1.55 per hundred.
Yep.
Now that does not set off the fact, though, that as your homes continue to rise in value, that means you're still going to end up paying more taxes, even though we'll lower the tax rate so that county-wide it's a neutral to the county.
Correct.
We don't bring in more money because of the reassessments. That's
right.
by state law. But you will probably still see an increase in what you have to pay out. And that's, and I do not, with the growth that we've had and the growth that we still expect to have in the county, not nationally, but I'm talking about here in Knox County, because we still have a lot of folks that want to move here, a lot of activity, a lot of new building, a lot of redevelopment, which is bringing new tax dollars in, as I'm sure you're well aware. But given all this information, we don't need to have any real changes in the tax structure. Everything should be just fine for now. Mm-hmm. Of course, we always want to depend on the stability, and that we continue to have economic growth, and that state and federal funding at least remains where it is. I don't see any need to have any kind of tax increase, not for a little while anyway. And that's, of course, we have to always look at that. We will have to make sure we have to have our balanced budget. So we'll do everything we can to stretch every dollar and oversee as much as we can to make sure that the administration and the budgets overspending or oversee the spending of tax dollars, oversight of the county agencies and such, offices and so forth. We'll do everything we can to stretch every dollar.
Well, and the county has done a phenomenal job since 1999. That's the last time that we've had a true tax increase, was 1999. Everything else has been
real rate increase.
Right.
Yes.
Everything else has been from natural growth, and
That's right.
and so we need to continue that. I think.
And I think it will, Brian.
Right.
I think it will.
Right. So, as we end this Brian Hornback Experience episode 154, I want to remind folks, particularly those of you in the 9th District in South Knoxville, to go to Vote Barry Neal, VoteBarryNeale. Right, VoteBarryNeale.com, and also on Facebook, Vote Barry Neal. To check Barry Neal out, send him a message, talk to him. He'll be out and about in the community like he has been. And Barry, I appreciate you being here on the Brian Hornback Experience. Folks, I've been an elected official in Knox County from 2000 to 2004 as a school board member. I remember Barry Neal being in South Knoxville as Republican Party chairman from 2005 to 2007. Every time I went to South Knoxville, Barry Neal was the go-to guy for Republican issues and talking about Republican politics in South Knoxville. So Barry Neal is your go-to guy in South Knoxville. I can't imagine anybody else better to represent you in South Knoxville than Barry Neal. And I'll take that all the way back to Howard Pinkston when he was elected in 1990 to county commission. But Barry Neal is
much. That's honored company.
But Barry Neal is the guy that you need in South Knoxville to represent you. And that's not because Barry Neal has advertised on Brian Hornback. That's because Barry Neal has been the guy that has been in South Knoxville for the last 20 or 30 years. So, Barry, I'm going to let you go ahead and finish out this 154th episode of the Brian Hornback Experience. Ask those folks in South Knoxville, those folks in West, East, and North Knoxville that know someone in East Knoxville to ask for their vote. Those folks in South Knoxville to vote for you for county commission. And I'm going to shut up.
Well, I so much appreciate you having me on this podcast, Brian. I really appreciate your endorsement. And, I love listening to what you do.
I appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. That's all I was going to say.
Well, and I appreciate you. And, I want to ask the voters for their support and their vote. I promise that I will take their interest in heart, and we'll always work together, and we will see that we have a good community and protect our community for not just now, but for our future generations. So this election is not about me, and it's not about the other candidates, really. It's about you. It's about the voter, the citizen of Knox County. It's about you and your children's future and the future of our county. So remember that as you go to the polls, and I would appreciate your support, and thank you very much.
Absolutely. And let me just say that if you have a girlfriend, a wife, boyfriend, husband, significant other, the best thing you can do on February the 14th, before you go to dinner, before you buy roses, before you buy chocolate, is to go to an early vote center. In South Knoxville, it's Meridian Baptist Church. Vote for Barry Neal for county commission, and you have till the 27th. If you don't make it there on the 14th, you got till the 27th. And after that, you got to go to your early voting or your day of precinct on March the 5th. But y'all need to go out and vote for Barry Neal for county commission in the 9th District.
Brian, I never imagined that I'd be on the same ballot with President Trump.
Oh, that's true. That's true. All right, Barry, thanks for being on here. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon as we go toward August 1st, the general election. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Good night.
Good night.